Welcome, disciples of the internet, to the Wyoming of the Mushroom Kingdom, Layer Cake Desert, where each of the levels or enemies are based around cake toppings, like ice cream cones, sentient fire, and the funny rock. But jokes aside, this is the basic modern Mario desert world, and each underground level has sections of advanced darkness, which brings into question how these previous underground sections have been perfectly lit. And as always, I am contractually obligated to mention that at the time of writing this introduction, only 16.8% of viewers are subscribed, so make sure to subscribe and toll that notification bell to view even more jelly-infused content. And if you want to go even further, you can give a contribution via the thanks button or join the channel for exclusive jelly-themed perks. Stone no matter how much I try, I can't get these stupid rocks out of my mind. What makes these rocks even worse is that each one has to act slightly differently. The first one does absolutely nothing and just seems to stand still, so I made a beautiful miniature statue. Then the rest of them do some random motion. Some of them fall slowly to the ground and get stuck in the sand forever, which has terrifying implications considering how these are all sentient beings. These will be unstable blue platforms, and for some of the other statues that move on their own, they can be replaced with yellow platforms that move on their own accord. Then there is the first appearance of the orange switch, which doesn't seem to have any form of description since it does something different each time. But most of the time it spawns coins from the sky. So I hid some coins above this hard block and slapped a POW block on a chain to achieve a really basic raining coins effect. Next mechanic is a desert level unique one, drowning. Like in Super Mario Bros. 3, every time there is a pool of quicksand, there will be a donut block on every open space to represent the sand pool. Another sand-related hiccup is the sand geyser, which spurts on different intervals. And since objects on chains will gain some sort of momentum after they leave their chains, I set an average of 3 platforms onto an open-ended chain so the player can ride on top of these geysers and enter them from the side. Then at the end of the level we got these giant funny rocks, so I made another beautiful stone statue with an unstable platform placed a few spaces above it. By the way, the levels are not getting shorter, so whenever I can't finish the main level, the sub-areas will be placed in the weirdest spots imaginable, as well as being half the size. Hairless Pokey Cave, finally the stupid rocks are gone and we now have Pokeys, which are enemies that we actually have. However, in this game they have the unique ability to stick to the ceiling, so they have to be placed on horizontal chains near the ceiling. However, they are sadly oriented the wrong way, so they are hypothetically sticking to the ceiling with their heads. Since the cave levels in this world have a different color palette, I just used the desert theme and put semi-solids behind everything, mostly just to make sure the sand doesn't look too out of place. After the checkpoint, there's the first darkness section, which thankfully is somehow a feature in Mario Maker 2 in the Night Ghost House theme. Please just don't question why you are in a decrepit house when you're supposed to be in a cake desert cave. Along with the Pokeys, this cave section has some swoops, which is practically just a Goomba with wings, which I then placed on a chain with a different shape depending on how far down they swoop. The final section will also need to take place in the darkness since there's enough room in the desert sub-area. Final note, this isn't a problem, but for some reason Pokeys have a light cone to indicate where they are looking, which is allegedly an important enough mechanic that has to be shown to the player. Fire Snake Cavern. The very start of this level is an ice flower, which is basically just a fire flower, but is now basically useless against most of the enemies in this world. Along from the main section of this level taking place in darkness, it has a new platform with these seesaws that automatically tilt from side to side. Sadly, I only have the non-automatic seesaws. In order to represent the lanterns of these seesaws, I use POW blocks since they emit a circle of light without being a moving entity or something that could hurt the player. Also, I didn't use stars since you get this very annoying noise. Also, I didn't expect to cover this, but one of the main marketing gimmicks of this game are the unique baby Yoshis. And yellow Yoshis actually appear in the levels itself and not on the world map. The yellow Yoshis act as light sources in these dark levels, and since you can carry them and decide their fate, I just threw in POW blocks yet again because they emit lights and you can easily dispose of enemies. On some of the seesaw sections, there are also some fire bros, and usually I replace them with hammer bros since that is the only bro I have, but since these projectiles bounce out the platforms I use spikes, but sometimes they will accidentally spike ball themselves due to gravity working against them. Also, this might be one of the only levels where sticking the sub areas in the sky won't look that bad since the darkness will obscure the areas where I stuck these 3 different sub areas. Just don't bonk your head. Now onto the titular fire snakes. I just used normal chain chomps this time since lava bubbles on chains won't interact with the seesaws. Stone Slide Tower. Nintendo's many attempts to prevent me from creating Getting Over It in Mario Maker 2. They made it so you can only have 1 vertical sub area per level. This makes it so only about 80% of each tower level can be made. At the very start of this level we got whatever that is, but we can think of this screw as essentially an on-off switch, and the block as being in 2 states that can be changed with said switch. Sure, this makes the level a lot easier since the switches don't slowly reset themselves, but it is better than having nothing at all. In terms of enemies, this is one of the first levels in the game where each of the enemies match very well with their Mario Maker 2 counterparts. In sub-area terms, both of them utilize the corkscrew switch. The most simple one has a roulette block from Super Mario World, so I'm now rolling a 6-sided die to determine whatever power-up goes in each roulette that block. And in this block I put well, you'll have to play the level to find out. You see, I got a chokehold on your attention now. The next area has a star coin and some infinitely spawning grolls, which don't really do anything but move side to side, so I placed a slow blue pipe that spawns some giant spike balls, but to make sure that the spike balls don't destroy themselves, I placed 2 sideways springs on the walls. The boss fight for this tower is Boom Boom again, but thanks to the power of magic, he can now jump slightly higher, which is one of the worst magical spells you can learn and something in Mario Maker 2 Boom Boom can already do without the help of magic. Spike spouting sands. Every single question block in this level has wings and either moves up and down or to the side, but every single one of these blocks has to be placed on a chain so they don't fly away from the player. The terrain for this level is a unique set of textures, so having the entire level be made out of hard blocks will look a little bland, so I made every other block ground just to have some beautiful stone sculptures. I am truly ahead of the times when it comes to my Mario Maker 2 artistic prowess. In the second sub-area, we got the first mini mushroom. There is really nothing that can replace a power-up like this one that changes how Mario interacts with literally everything in the game, so I just made all of the mini mushroom gaps 1 block tall, and for wherever you can find a mini mushroom, I replaced it with a Goomba because I find it funny. The first sub-area of this level has some of those expanding blocks from Super Mario World, but since the main level takes up too much space, this area will have to be placed in the sky and shortened by lots, so we get this. Yeah, that's as good as it gets. Also, there's a secret exit, that's why the next level is ice themed. Piranha plants on ice. Now we're back with even more gravity mechanics. This time it's ice blocks that fall once fire piranha plants melt the ice platforms holding them up. The ice platform is one of the easiest parts since clicking on the coins allows you to change them into snow coins that can be melted. As for the blocks, there's no way to have a fully connected block, but by putting a 3 block tall coin-filled bullet bill launcher on each block, I've created a segmented ice block. But some of the blocks will be much harder for the piranha plants to hit than others, especially since they aren't even aiming for them. But that's pretty much the only interesting mechanic this level is going for it. Even if you go all the way to the end of the level, they only introduce the concept of stacking ice cubes on top of each other. But since there are so many ice blocks, particularly in the latter half of the level, the game will physically stop me from adding more bullet bill launchers, so sadly one of the ice cubes will have to be removed. Rest in peace to ice cube number 35. The sub area doesn't even introduce anything new, but at least it's nice and symmetrical. Dry desert mushrooms. Now the cool thing about this level, other than the fact that its name implies that the mushrooms of the Mario universe are naturally wet, is that there is only one enemy in this level, if you don't count this random Koopa Troopa near the end. That enemy is the blue spike that throws spike balls downwards, and this is actually fairly complicated to replicate. There aren't really any enemies that throw something directly downward with no angle. However, you can attach a cannon to a ceiling and point it directly downwards. But then near the end of the level, these spikes stand on moving platforms, and while you can put cannons on chains, you can't point them downwards. So the cannon is replaced with just a normal spike to compensate for the lack of spikes in this level so far. I also put a muncher under them so they don't accidentally kill each other. Plus, since all of these platforms load in at different times, you can get totally screwed by a projectile that you didn't see. Blooming Lacatus. Now, like the title suggests, the Lacatus in this level aren't exactly normal, as they throw piranha plant seeds that instantly turn into fully grown plants, which clashes with the integral lore set in Yoshi's Island, but I digress. In Mario Maker 2, Lacatus are just like bullet bill cannons in the sense that you can put whatever you want in them, including, in this case, piranha plants. Sadly, there is the return of those massive rolling platforms, but at least they look so much less out of place than they did in the previous video. And sadly, these rolling platform sections take up so much space that this is another level that just ends abruptly, so there isn't really anything stopping you from just grabbing the star coin for free. Mortons Compactor Castle. Now this level is really exciting because it is the one where we got whatever this is. In Super Mario World, whenever there were multiple moving blocks, I would use multiple bullet bill launchers, but that turned out to lead to multiple situations in which the player would squish themselves inside the platform. So even though it doesn't look as impressive, yellow platforms do get the player from point A to point B. Also, bullet bill platforms would look like this. And for that section with all the blocks that I showed in the beginning won't even be included since there isn't enough room. Even though this level doesn't have a mini mushroom, there are still 2 sub areas that are intended to be reached with one, but they only contain coins and 1-ups, and since there's no room anywhere else, they can be shoved into the walls. But before the boss, I have to mention how this green coin ring will have to be removed so the player doesn't just save their key and skip the boss fight. Now we got the second major boss fight with Morton and his giant Pokey. Now what surprised me is that Pokey is one of those rare enemies in the game that you can't give mushrooms to for some reason. So while Pokeys do emerge from both sides of the arena, they look kind of small and out of place. Also, they will get taken out of the fight super early since they can be killed by Morton's attacks and don't respawn. And afterwards, we can punish Morton with the lava execution chamber. And finally, to be consistent with my video structure, it's now time for my personal ranking of every level from this world in terms of which level is least accurate to most accurate to the original game. Number 9, Morton's Compactor Castle. Number 8, Fire Snake Cavern. Number 7, Ston Stone Slide Tower. Number 6, Dry Desert Mushrooms. Number 5, Stone Eye. Number 4, Blooming Lacatus. Number 3, Spikes Spouting Sands. Number 2, Perilous Pokey Cave. And number 1, Piranha Plants on Ice. Pretty nice, the number 1 level for this world doesn't even use the desert theme this world is known for. If you want to play any of the levels from NSMBU's World 2 right now, you can search up the maker ID for my 3rd Mario Maker account currently shown on screen. And if you want to view more content like this, or just more Jelly Soaked Sleep Paralysis Demon Fuel, stick around. And for member activities starting at the Jelly Priest tier, we got Matt Kurtzals.